Hello and welcome back to Modern Herbalist. So today I wanted to have a little think about my vision or my plan for the herbal business, because it may seem to many of you that I sort of just jumped straight into this, but I do have a plan, a long-term plan, and I've alluded to this slightly or briefly in previous videos. In particular, there was one called Why Herbalism and another about choosing my herb collection, in which I outlined a little bit of my plans going forward. But I thought I'd dedicate an entire video to this. As you can see, some of the plants have been moved over there to the back of the garden for now. This is actually because there's some work being done on my house right now, and everything's sort of very disordered right now, and the spaces where I usually keep some of the plants is out of commission currently, and I'm actually going to gain access to another room when this is all done, which I may repurpose for the herb growing activities, right? So we will see about all of that, but that's why it's all over there at the back of the garden at the moment. So what is my vision? And again, I'm just going to have a sort of spontaneous, improvised think about this. So when I started this, as I say, and I mentioned this in the Choosing the Herb collection video, I tried to choose herbs which I thought would have immediate application just as leaves, basically. And I focused on plants that would be cut and come again and perennial, so I can just continually harvest them year round for the leaves. So I'm looking essentially at making products out of the leaves, and that seems to me to primarily fall into two categories. One, teas, or rather herbal infusions, and culinary cooking herbs, as spices or condiments. So that's what I'm looking at for the near term, okay? Because I do actually have much more ambitious goals for the future, but this is the near term, okay? And at the moment, my collection looks like this. I have 3 rather large lemon balm plants. This one over here is one of the lemon balms. 3 rather large lemon balm plants, a peppermint, and a spearmint, and then some of the cooking herbs: oregano, thyme, lemon thyme, rosemary, and some more exotic stuff like pineapple sage, blackcurrant sage, kola artemisia, and the lime tree. Recently I actually got something called sweet Sicily, and I'm looking at getting something called anise hyssop as well, which has a nice aniseed or licoricey taste. But that's essentially the collection for now. And the reason I got 3 lemon balms and decided to give those the really big pots, and the reason I focused on lemon balm primarily, is because I think that has the best potential for a first product as a herbal infusion, because it has a wonderful lemony taste. It's relaxing, very hardy plant that's just continuously going to put out leaves. As you can say, we're well into autumn now, and this thing is still really flourishing. So continual source of leaves, okay? Very, very easy to grow, and it's going to be high yield and produce a very nice tea for me, okay? So of all the plants, I decided to really triple down on that first, okay? So I think my first product is going to be lemon balm tea. So what I need to do is set up a drying room with a drying rack, or just place a drying rack somewhere viable. Take cuttings, store them properly, and this is probably going to look like glass containers. Those are the best things for storage. But I'm going to dedicate, you'll see in future, I'm going to dedicate a new room to drying and storing the herbs, to keep it nice and clean and separate from everything, and a good environment for drying, and just a cool dark place sort of thing, which is what you want for drying and storing. I'm going to get a bunch of glass containers, And so I'm going to basically harvest and store lemon balm to begin with, and maybe lightly chop it and offer it in pouches as a tea, something like this. This is going to be my first product. I've trialed this a little bit with some friends of mine, and I've got really good feedback about the tea so far. So I'm thinking of rolling this out as my first product, okay? So this is sort of step one in the plan, okay? After I've gotten all of this sorted, and this is going to require several steps itself, you know, I'm going to have to source packaging materials, envelopes, storage, and work out the postage and pricing and all of this. Once I get that rolling, lemon balm will be sort of my first product. And as I say, I intend to just get that rolling first. Once that's completely rolling and is taking care of itself, I'll move on to something else. Probably, again, something with an immediate function as an infusion or a condiment. So that could be potentially the spearmint or peppermint for a nice tea, or the oregano, thyme, rosemary for cooking herbs. Could be one of those. I'll see where my collection is at by the time the lemon balm is well and truly rolling as a fully fleshed out product. And whichever plant looks like the best candidate to proceed with next, I'll go with that. And I think there's a high chance it might be oregano, because this has been just really easy to grow basically, and some of the cuttings are coming along really well, and it looks like I'm going to be able to multiply this and get quite a few oregano plants. So oregano is a very plausible candidate for the herb that I'll go with next as my next product, and that I'll be looking at essentially grinding that and offering that in pouches as a sort of ground herb for cooking, something like that. So again, this is the short term. So basically I'm looking at setting up a drying and storage room, procuring packaging materials, and then transforming some of my herbs into either herbal teas or ground condiments. Okay, that's step one, as I say, for the short term, really. If I'm able to do this successfully, and I'm not going to expand beyond this unless I can do this successfully, okay? But if I can do this successfully, if this starts earning me some revenue, I will incorporate the company as a private limited company and, give it its own finances and everything. And then I will take the proceeds from all of the sales and reinvest it back into the business with the view to growing it long term. And the long-term vision, obviously I want to, make infusions and condiments out of my existing collection. But, if I can do that sustainably and profitably and bring in a good amount of money from that, I will then look at expanding into other areas. And some of the areas I've considered are soaps, shampoos, incense, essential oils, perfumes, things like this, right? And tea blends, perhaps some very fine artisanal tea blends, that I've curated myself, because I'm going to do a lot of experimenting and see what works together. We might have something really interesting, like a licorice and lime tea blend with the anise hyssop and the citrus hystrix, the lime tree. Who knows? I'll try and come up with some interesting tea blends. So tea blends, teas, condiments. Then I'm looking at soaps, shampoos, essential oils, perfumes. And I've done quite a bit of research on this already. I roughly know how to make soap, shampoo, incense, and essential oils. The problem with essential oils is the volume of plant matter you need is really, really a lot. So that's a very long-term goal. By that point, I'm thinking about either having converted my whole garden into a growing apparatus, or having moved somewhere. And I am considering moving out to the deeper countryside where I can have a plot of land, for instance, or maybe working with an allotment, something like this. We have access to allotments here in England. So yeah, this is roughly sort of the plan. Step one Step 1 is turn my lemon balm into a marketable product, a herbal infusion, sort of something like a dried and chopped pouches of herbs for infusion. Then looking at transforming other products into condiments and herbal teas. If I'm able to make enough money out of it, then I plan to expand into incense, soaps, shampoos. Now, I haven't decided which I'll go for first, but I do know that anything that really requires essential oils has to be later on. I know how you do it. You just need a distiller, steam distiller, I think is the way I'm looking at going. Basically, you heat a body of water until it evaporates into steam, and then the steam passes through the herbs in another chamber and it picks up the essential oils. And then when it condenses, finally, you get the oil infused with the aromatic compounds and so on. So I roughly know how to do it, and I know how to do all the other things. It's just for essential oils, yeah, as I say, the volume of plant matter you need is really a lot. But this is sort of the vision, okay? So we could think of it in 3 phases, or let's say 4 phases. So phase 1 is the initial setup. I'm still in the initial setup phase. That means getting all the plants, getting them to a healthy size where they're growing a lot, multiplying the plants, growing a big collection, and then setting up the drying and storing facilities, glass containers, dedicated room, cupboards for this stuff, drying racks, things like that. That's the initial setup, phase 1. Once I've got that, I can make my first product. This is phase 2. And that's going to look like herbal infusions and ground condiments and so on. Most likely in pouches or jars, something like this. This is phase 2. Phase 3, beyond that, is more elaborate products such as incense, soaps, shampoos. And then finally, if I ever get to this stage, we will see obviously, but the last stage will be essential oils and manufacturing products with essential oils, and that could include more advanced perfumery and stuff like that. I'm basically looking to do a line of, as you could think of it as luxury goods, I suppose. I mean, it's all in the sort of luxury category, but also some culinary stuff, as I say, cooking herbs. I might even do some edible plants in future. That's something I consider as well, edible plants or crops, possibly. But I'm looking at a sort of luxury good range, everything from relaxing specialty herbal infusions, tea blends, through incense and soap and shampoo, all the way to essential oils and perfumery. Okay, that's the product range I'm looking at. But if any other things come to mind along the way, I may pursue them too. As I say, I just alluded possibly to edible plants or even decorative plants. I don't know. Obviously, I can even take cuttings of my plants and just sell the new copies as well. Could do stuff like that. So there's potential other options that will emerge along the way as I do this and as I think about it more. And if you have any suggestions for me, please do let me know in the comments. All right. But that's basically the vision for the short, medium, and long term. And we'll see how it goes, all right? So as I said from the beginning of the channel, it's going to be a really long-term project, okay? And we'll see how I get on. Still in the initial setup phase, but my next moves you'll see probably over the coming weeks or months, especially as the work of my house is completed. I'll move into finalizing the initial setup and getting a drying room and drying facilities sorted. And then we're going to be harvesting, storing, drying, and packaging a lot of herbs. I'm still in the trial phase right now, so I haven't really harvested and stored anything on a serious level, just a little bit for testing. But after this initial setup, I'm going to start to look at really storing and collecting for product manufacture and sale on the market. All right, so that's the vision. That's the vision, and we'll see how it unfolds. Thank you for watching, and if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.